told me to hit it harder this time. Good afternoon. The October 14th, 2024 Faculty Senate meeting will come to order. The minutes of the September 9th, 2024 Faculty Senate meeting. Any corrections or additions to the September 9th minutes? Hearing no objections, the minutes are approved. Next item. Today we are using a consent agenda to handle routine and non-controversial items of business. We will use one vote to consider all items on the consent agenda. If requested by a member of the Senate, items the associated committee report. Does any member of the Faculty Senate wish to remove any items from the consent agenda to allow for discussion in the meeting? Seeing no requests to remove items from the consent agenda, we will move to a vote. All of those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, including approval of the new course report included in Annex 1, the course change report, Annex 2, the Jeffco course report, Annex 3, and the committee appointments, Annex 4, please raise your hand. Thank you. Those online, please lower your hands. All those opposed to acceptance of the consent agenda, please raise your hands. Thank you. The motion passes and the consent agenda is accepted and approved. Next on our agenda is my report. Faculty Senate leadership has continued to address issues to improve the university as well as the faculty experience. We continue to support various committees and their work on issues, including the student accommodation process, promotion and tenure guidelines, and the faculty constitution, amongst other efforts. In the past month, members of the Faculty Senate leadership have interfaced with administration about the new budget model, enrollment numbers, research processes, and the faculty code of conduct. We will begin to receive reports on many of these items at upcoming Faculty Senate exec meetings and at the November Faculty Senate meeting. I remind all senators to establish regular communication with your constituents and to do not hesitate to reach out to us with your concerns. You can also encourage individual faculty members to utilize the Contact Us form on the Faculty Senate website to let us know about their concerns, issues, or ideas. The search for the next president of this university continues. The listening phase of the process concluded in mid-September after 35 listening sessions spread over all three campuses and a survey with over 1,200 responses. Based on the information gathered during this process, the search committee and the search firm partner created the leadership profile that was released on Friday. The Board of Governors and Presidential Search Committee also announced that the remainder of the search will remain confidential until a final candidate is announced in the spring of 2025. As representatives for the faculty, we are disappointed that there will not be public interaction of the presidential finalists with the multiple constituencies on campus, including students, staff, and faculty. Although we acknowledge that the presidential search process has changed significantly since WVU last had a search in 2007, we believe an open process would increase morale and trust. We appreciate the inclusion of 3 faculty members on the search committee, 2 of whom were nominated by the Faculty Senate. We also recognize that the faculty has 2 representatives on the Board of Governors, both of whom will be active participants in the interviews of finalists. Last Thursday, Faculty Senate leadership participated in the presidential search open house hosted by Search Committee Chairperson Patrice Harris and attended by multiple search committee members, including 2 of the 3 faculty representatives. We asked questions and advocated for greater openness in the process. We asked the faculty representatives what their priorities were in a new president and found them to be consistent with the overall faculty. We also asked how they would describe the faculty to a potential candidates and found their answers powerful, insightful, and accurate. After academic transformation, it is difficult to trust others with our future. We believe that the faculty representatives on the selection committee and on the Board of Governors will strongly advocate for our concerns during interviews with finalists and will advocate for the best candidate to address our issues. To build trust in the selection process, We encourage the selection committee to consider the suggestions the faculty and faculty senate have made to increase faculty participation in the finalist phase. The Shared Governance Committee submitted a list of potential questions that the finalists could answer and send back to the selection committee. We are willing to work with the selection committee to anonymously share the written responses of the candidates with faculty and solicit feedback to inform the deliberations of the selection committee. That concludes my report. Any questions for me? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a report from the Curriculum Committee Chairperson, Darko Velachowski. Darko?
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, Faculty Senate Curriculum Committee has met last week on October 10th. We have reviewed 44 course proposals, out of which 26 were course change proposals and 18 were new course proposals. We're still working with a number of initiators of those, and we have also reviewed 6 program proposals, 5 of which have passed, and we're still working on one with the initiator. And that's all of those are, I think, in the or will be in the annex next time. That's it.
Thank you, Darko. Any questions for Darko? In addition to the items that were approved in the consent agenda, the Curriculum Committee has submitted for information the deleted course report, which can be found as Annex 5. Our next report is from Cody Hood, Chairperson of JEFCO. And it looks like Megan is going to speak for him.
Yes, I'm
Thank
Megan
you.
Light. I'm a member of the JEFCO committee. Cody couldn't be here in person, but he is online. We have one for approval item, it's Annex 6. It's the JEF course expectations. This list was composed by last year's JEF committee after several meetings worth of consideration, in particular with the provost office. Then it was reviewed by this year's committee members before being presented to exec by Cody Hood. And now we are moving these to the full faculty senate for approval. So I move to approve the JEF course expectations.
Okay. We have an item for approval, the GEF course expectations, which have been provided to you in Annex 6. Are there any questions or discussion? Can you approach the microphone?
Hello, Kevin Mylands, School of Mathematical and Data Sciences, Eberly College. My question, I noticed that the document has a specification that GEF classes should have 2-year rolling averages, DFW rates of at most 35%. And I have some questions about, I mean, I guess the purpose is kind of self-explanatory, but the disadvantage there is when we have presumably for classes to maintain their GEF standards, their GEF designation, that could over time impact standards in such a class. That doesn't really sit very well with me. The committee could speak to the rationale for that requirement and whether there are any provisions to try to maintain standards in these classes. Thank you.
Okay. Megan, do you or Cody want to respond? Are you able to respond?
I'm actually wondering if Lou Slimak, are you here today?
No, Lou is unfortunately not here today.
Okay, Cody.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can, Cody.
So we can speak with Lou for more details in the future if we need further clarification. But these, again, are guidelines that are used to identify whether JEF courses need to be addressed for potential modifications or just to be put on the record that is being upheld. So these are not requirements that need to be met. It was very clear, hopefully, that these are expectations, not requirements. And so if any of these expectations are not met, that does not mean that the specific course is at risk of losing their JEF status. It just means that there might be included as a component of their audit process that for this example, the DFW rate is higher than what we would like the course to be. And then a discussion would be had to see if any accommodations need to be made as a result of the higher DFW rate.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? I, yep, I understand. Any other questions for the committee? Okay. Seeing no further questions, we will move to a vote. All of those in favor of approving Annex 6 GEF course expectations, please say aye. And those online, please raise your hand. Thank you. Those online, you can lower your hand. All of those who are opposed, please indicate by saying nay. And raise your hands online. Thank you. The results of the vote are that the GEF course expectations Annex 6 are accepted. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a report from the chair of TACO, Sherry Chisholm, who is on Zoom. Sherry? Okay. Yeah, we apparently have lost Sherry, so we're going to move on and come back if she returns. Next up is the Committee on Committees report.
Good afternoon, Ilkin Bilgisi with Statler. I don't have anything to report except that we added new members by Annex 4 today.
Any questions? Thank you. Sherry, showing back up. Okay. Next up, a report from our representative to the Board of Governors, Leslie Cottrell. Leslie?
No, Leslie Cottrell, School of Medicine, Department of Pediatrics. So I know we've talked about the special session that just happened. I'm going to jump back. We did have a regular session and there were some really interesting summary points. So let me review a few of those. So one, we did get an update about the modernization process. You might know Vicki Smith and get a lot of emails from her regularly about different systems. It relates to that and updating those. And so they provided a nice timeline for when those would be modernized, what would be included and things of that sort. That has since come out. So let us know if you have any questions. We can ask Bryce and others to reiterate that. Every so often, well, annually, the school receives an audit. So Paula Congilio mentioned that. She outlined the steps, kind of went back and described it to those of us who aren't involved, and noted no huge red flags for the university in terms of a fiscal audit. In these meetings, we often hear from our peers, which is wonderful, and we heard about the robotics program, and then about the, you heard President Gee mentioned about the NCI goal for the Cancer Institute. So Dr. Jenkins and Jason, I just had him on, presented both of their work. It's absolutely fabulous. And again, it's always wonderful to hear. I encourage everyone to reach out to them and learn more. HLC visits coming up. So it's starting to get some motivation. We're going to hear from Lou at some point, I'm sure, to get us ready for that. That's spring 2025. So just, they were letting us know. And one here that the deadline has since passed, but it was, these tend to be annually, the Open Learning West Virginia grant. So OER was involved. I don't know if anyone had submitted something, but it was nice to hear grant opportunity. So those were the key elements that I took. We did get some tentative enrollment numbers that we'll hear later on, which everyone's wanting to hear about. We did have some questions about that moving forward. So again, they'll come back later. And then, so that was in September. Then we had the special meeting, and Diana, you referenced this in your report. Obviously, that was focused largely on the presidential profile, so that we can tell them a lot about us, and then about the process as we go. And so, just to mention a little bit, so Diana mentioned that I'm going to describe this process as a hybrid, meaning that it's not completely closed because the 2 BOG members that we have on there, myself included, and our 3 faculty representatives. So completely closed means BOG only. So I'm going to take that as a win. And then kind of going through discussions about why this is like this. So as you can imagine, the people who are applying for this position, right or wrong, might be hesitant They might have imagined or real threats to their current occupation, current role, and that if they didn't get chosen here, or if their name is announced, that they may not have a job, even if they're not chosen. So I think that's a pretty significant factor. It's not the only one that's being discussed, but we do want to cast a wide net, and it is one that's commonly coming up. I think in general, Diane mentioned a couple of ways that, given that that is the state of how it's going to go down, that there are a few ways going to be part of that process. I think every single person in that role welcomes that connection. That listening session was absolutely fantastic, so that someone can say, how do you feel about it? And they can hear whether or not that echoes. You can size us up in terms of whether we represent you. And those connections are very important. So in the next 5 months, however many, I know we're exploring ways that we can do that. One of the ways, Corey will be sending a link after the meeting that opens it up. So as you have thoughts, suggestions, concerns, that's going to go to Frankie and I, and we will pass that on to the search committee members as well. But that opens up a pipeline for that communication. And like I said, that's not the only one that we're going to do. We're going to, hopefully I'll come back, or Diane can mention additional ways that we can make ourselves available. And that's it.
Thank you, Leslie. Any questions for Leslie? All right, thank you very much. Oh, please approach the mic.
Hi, Brian Powell from Statler College, and I do appreciate your talk today, and I've emailed you and Frankie separately. Right now, there is a search for the campus president at Potomac State, and they're having an open method. So what's the difference between Potomac State and main campus? Why their search should be open and ours should?
So I think that's a really good point. And to, I mean, it's not wanting to compare, but they are part of us. So they're definitely an important piece. They are very different in terms of the nature of what that person who would apply is being asked to do. The job description, even though it's of the president, is slightly different than this. Caliber might be the same, who knows, but it is a different piece. So people do decide to have open searches, but for the larger WVU system, the thought was that the type of people who would be applying for that level of a role would expect not sharing their name if they're not chosen.
Any other questions for Leslie? Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. All right, next up, we have our report from President Gee, who has already concluded his report with the State of the University address. However, he has made himself to answer questions. For faculty senators in the room, if you have a question, please approach the mics and you can ask, and we will see if we've had any questions submitted online.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for being here today. Let me just say one thing. I can't. That is the fact that we did have a special legislative session. And I don't know if that was reported on. Was that reported? No. I ran into to our state senator outside, and he and I both agreed we had a very successful interim session. We got about $5.1 million more from our funding from the funding formula, which is very important to us. They only because we were meeting all their expectations. We got $2 million more for the Neuroscience Institute to develop ultrasound therapies, and we are we've got some more money for deferred maintenance, a number of other things. So I think that Travis Mollahan and his team have done just a terrific job, and I hope that we can continue to have that great relationship with our legislature, because they're right now doing very good things for us. Saying that, I'm available for questions. I have no online, no questions here. I tell you something, I got away light today, didn't I?
Got one. They have one approved.
Yes, great, please. Tell me your name.
Hello, I'm Joe Jones from the Creative CCAM,
Yeah, hey.
College
Joe.
of Creative Arts and Media, the media part.
Yeah,
I just have a question. So, and I know this is kind of about the future, but to the best of your knowledge, is academic transformation a one-time thing, or did this set us up for maybe doing this further down the line, or do you think you did enough where it would just be this kind of
well,
singular issue?
you know, first of all, I think that the notion of our academic transformation is a continuing process, not in the same way that we did it because we had a $45 million budget deficit that we had to close, which we did. And we're financially stable and growing in our financial stability. But I think that asking the question of how do we continue to improve the institution, that was what it was really about. How do we improve the institution? How do we make ourselves much more competitive? How do we make certain we're attractive to students? How do we make certain that we're attractive to faculty and others who are with us and those who are going to be coming? I think that will continue. Right now, I can tell you this, and many people kick the ball down the road. 3 institutions of higher education are closing every week. There are significant numbers of large institutions like ours that are doing very draconian things. Take a look at Penn State, take a look at the University of Arizona, take a look at Kansas. And I just feel very confident that we have projected ourselves into a much more positive ability to be able to continue to maintain ourselves. But transformation, in my view, is a continuing process and should be a continuing process in universities because universities are changing and the world is changing around us. So that it's in that spirit that I'd say that it will continue.
And do you think the legislator is going to be maybe more amenable to kind of our needs
I
now?
think they already are.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
you did
they
mention a
already
couple
are.
of things
That
for
was
STEM.
that was
Yeah.
my report that I just made. You know, I think that our relationship with the legislature right now is as strong as it has been in the fact that I think we made our case to the legislature that we are managing ourselves and that we don't need to be managed by the legislature from that point of view. Thank you. You're welcome. Hi, yes.
Hi, Sean McWilliams from Physics and Astronomy at Beverly College.
Hi, Sean.
Hi. $1 million funding fall gap is closed. Why are there still quite a bit of limits on spending of state
Yeah,
funds?
and our CFO is right here. You know, we had to put those in order to close the gap, and now we can start opening them, and we are doing that. We're taking a look at every possible way, Sean, to move back into normal order in terms of those expenditure limitations. Okay.
On when that
Well, you know, Mark, Paula, you're here. Did you want to ask that question? I don't want to get ahead of you. We're looking at each other, Sean.
So we have in our fiscal year 25 budget, that's the current year that we're in, ending June of 25. We had budgeted for release of some level of reserve spending. We will be working on that at the board's direction in the next couple of weeks, actually getting information out on that. And when it comes to other restrictions, whether it be travel, some of the things we had asked for extra levels of authorization on, we're keeping some of those in place. We still have a very small margin, and we're just trying to be mindful of the expenses we have. To the extent that it's budgeted, we don't need those extra sets of approval, but if somebody's requesting something that's outside of their budget, we're keeping, we have certain committees in place to make sure we don't overspend our budget. But we are trying to free up some reserves over the next several years as we try to get back to that previous level of spend, whether it be for research, travel, conferences. We're trying to get back to that same level.
Thank you, Paula. I appreciate it.
Stay up there
Hi.
for one more second.
Yeah.
So just a follow-up question to the budget, but of Emily Murphy from the College of Applied Human Sciences. Does this include unfreezing of F&A too at the?
So when
colleges?
we talk about frozen funds, we've been meeting with the deans and with our board. And there are other funds beyond F&A that, we had to, when we talk about frozen, those are funds earned in previous years. Funds earned in the current year are usually budgeted. But we are going to be looking at priorities across the university as we unfreeze. So we just can't take all levels of approval off. We have to look at needs across the university. We're going to prioritize those and we'll get back to everyone on what's been approved. But we're just beginning the process of working through that. We talked about it at our last board meeting and we are working under their direction now to roll this out.
Thank you.
Don't leave, Paula. There may be more questions.
Hold on, yeah, okay, so I'll admit, I'm Megan Light, College of Creative Arts and Media. How is the new budget model going? Can I ask that question?
So we are using the budget model currently in fiscal year 25. We can only, until we implement Workday, our systems aren't quite aligned with how the budget model works. So a lot of it is done in another system on spreadsheets, but being monitored. So at the once enrollment is finalized, what we'll do is we'll take everyone's enrollment and we'll use the budget model to say your actuals for this year look like what compared to the budget, because we use the budget model in preparing the budget. We looked at all of the revenues that a primary unit, which is a college, all of the revenues that are earned, whether that be tuition, their share of state appropriations, their share of research, F&A, all of their revenues, their direct expenses that come off of that, which are expenses they've always had. And then there are additional expenses. If you recall, we had this sort of presentation a couple of years ago. I'm sure it's hard to remember, but all colleges, all primary units are also now responsible for covering some support costs across the university. Everyone has a share of IT expense. Everyone has a share of facility expense. So we're allocating out all revenues and we're allocating out all expenses so we can see how primary units are performing. I'm not sure if I went further than what you were asking, but we are using the budget model to sort of focus on where resources need to be directed. And the budget model works alongside of academic reviews to see who's teaching all the student credit hours, where the resources need to be dedicated as we move forward.
I think departments have not received their budget designations yet, and therefore faculty have no idea what we can spend even toward
yes.
classes right now. We're at week 8 already in the semester. So in terms of forward thinking, I get that the first year has its ups and downs, but are we always going to anticipate not knowing by the midway point in the semester?
So the
what our
budget
budgets
model,
are?
as in the past, the budget model is at the college level. We're only budgeting at the college level. The dean and your chief business officer are using those resources then to budget at the departmental level. So those should be coming from your dean and chief business officer, however they did in the past and what you would get in the future. Our budget model is not at the department level anywhere across the university.
Have the colleges received their budgets for the year?
The colleges know their budgets. They were approved at the June meeting and they worked on their budgets from, I would say, last January through June.
Thank you.
Just before we take further questions, I just want to point out that we are going to be having budget presentation in November meeting. But if I can't cut off questions, if you have a pertinent question, please go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Eugenia Pena Jeftohef, Davis College School of Agriculture and Food System. So transformation hasn't stopped because it created kind of a domino effect. So changes are still occurring that actually will impact everything that we are talking here. Who's watching?
Well, you mean who's watching and who's in charge of making certain that we are meeting our obligations in that regard? Well, you're going to hear from the provost in a second, who has the overall responsibility for that.
So yeah, and just to clarify maybe is that every school that I know yet, and trying to guide a university through this is not easy. So that's why I asked who's actually watching and predicting.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Let me say two things. One is the fact that, yes, the provost office has responsibility for monitoring all of those areas, and they're doing it, and I can tell you they're doing it very effectively. The second thing is, nothing's going to finish. I hope everyone understands that higher education is now in an existential change mode, and everyone knows it, everyone sees it, no one wants to accept it. But that is exactly what we're in right now. And so to say that something's going to end, some things will remove to what would be a new normal, but the change process will continue.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Hi, Amy Weislow, Eberly College, Geology and Geography.
I'm sorry?
Amy Weislow, Eberly College, Department
Okay,
of Geology
great.
and Geography. Relevant to people are the non-renewals of contracts of faculty, be it term contracts or tenured faculty. Are there any indications that that part of the transformation will happen again in the future?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that part of the transformation is probably over, other than just the regular order. You might want to, the provost will be up in just a second, but yes, I mean, we went through the refiner's fire in order to get to where we are right now, and that is no longer on the schedule, but rather we're trying to return as fast as we can to a more regular order. And so that question should be answered by how we're doing things now. Am I right, Paul? Great. Okay.
That's great.
Thank you, President Gee. Now, a report from Provost Paul Kreider. Paul?
So before I get into my report, let me just say, probably the salient point about transformation is that academic transformation as it happened this last year and a half, will not happen again in the future. We have an annual program review, and that process will take place for all programs every year through our whole review of our academic portfolio. We don't anticipate any process again to occur where we are going to systematically review programs under control. This is going to basically subside at this point in time. Could it come back decades later, 10 years later, 5 years later? It depends on how we reinvent ourselves. The nice thing is, as I heard earlier from a faculty member, is that programs are changing. Majors are changing. Units are adapting. This is what transformation is all about. That's why we went through this exercise, and hopefully the academic portfolio review every year will continue this and allow it to happen organically in each unit. So having said that, let me just start with my report. I do want to announce, and I'm pleased to announce, the reinstatement of faculty service grants for this year. The program was suspended due to recent budget shortfalls, and I'm happy to state that we are able to renew this opportunity for our faculty. The process of awarding these funds will not change and is done through the Faculty Senate. Again, that is the Faculty Senate Service Awards. The budget model review and process will happen in November. As requested, we are preparing a presentation to the Faculty Senate on the budget model governance for the November Faculty Senate meeting. We can do that as a special. I heard somebody ask a question about the Potomac State search. I will give you an update. During the week of September 30th through October 4th, 5 finalist candidates interviewed on campus at Potomac State College. meeting with leaders, students, faculty, and the community, as well with the search committee. I am pleased to announce that we have two very viable candidates who are visiting Morgantown, one last Friday and one that is visiting this week. From those Morgantown meetings, again with leaders, enrollment staff, foundation staff, and the provost team, we will arrive at a final candidate. I'm very optimistic about a successful outcome from this search process. 25-26 cohort of faculty fellows. This is an opportunity for full-time faculty on the Morgantown campus to develop and deliver innovative, engaged courses to the students in the Honors Foundations program. During the year of their fellowship, fellows are expected to teach one or two sections of their proposed course, deliver a public lecture based on their course material, and serve on the committee that selects the next cohort of fellows. Interested faculty should discuss their ideas with their chair before applying. And for more information, you can visit the Faculty Fellows page on the Honors College website. The deadline to apply is November 8th. I want to give a reminder about the celebration of long-form scholarship. That's scheduled for October 22nd. The celebration is designed to recognize the achievements of all faculty and staff members who have published a book, released an audio recording, or produced a full-length work in another medium within any discipline. This year's event is also a celebration of the 25th anniversary of the WVU Press and will include readings from 3 selected authors with recent publications, event details, and website. Since Dr. Gee stole my thunder about recent legislative success, I will yield the rest of my report to questions if you have any. Hey, Joe.
Joe Jones, College of Creative Arts and Media. I got it this time. Paul, I have a quick question. So you said there's this like yearly review about programs if they're not financially stable or not. How can I word this? Is there a way?
I actually said that about academic transformation.
Academic transformation.
The annual program review is.
Okay. So is there a way you look at individual units beyond market value? That let's say we ask, what is a university for? If something's going to survive, into the future, just because it's not, maybe what the market wants right now, is there a duty we have to maybe look at what we should be keeping regardless of kind of this financial health? Like, so what else maybe would you say we would look at in programs to say, well, that is valuable, even if there's a dip in majors right now, it is something we would try to keep around. Is there some kind of criteria you would have to look at that?
So I think there's two. I'll answer that in 2 ways. And I just feel like, one, we have to always look at our programs and see how are we relevant today and how are things changing in the world around us, and are we going to be relevant in the future? And so the academic portfolio review that'll be done on an annual basis is basically looking at the curriculum, looking at the enrollment, looking at it's not about the health, financial health. It's about what are the trends? What are the trends are we seeing? Is it harder to find faculty? Is it easier? Are the students voting with their feet and not coming? What are the trends? And then we can figure out how to address those trends. So, but again, it's about relevance, I think. And we can reinvent ourselves to become relevant with the changing world. And that's really what, in my mind, the academic annual review is about.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi,
Leslie
Leslie.
Cottrell. Hello. School of Medicine. I'm excited to hear that the service grants are coming back. I wanted to ask, are they coming back?
I can't answer that at this time, but I can look into it. I'm not sure what the source of money is for those grants, but I'll find out and we'll talk about it. Okay?
Stefania Stanisha, Davis College. Follow-up question. I was looking at the travel development grants, and from the website, it doesn't seem that they are available. So my question is.
I'm
will
sorry,
they
what's
be,
not available?
Travel and development grant? The grants, travel and development grants. Will they
Again, I
be
can't answer that, so I'll look into that as well. Is that also awarded through the faculty? Okay, we'll look into it. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I have a. I'm Doug Terry from WVU Tech, I'm an English professor. And I have a question about the annual review. I was wondering, as someone who's not on the Morgantown campus, will this annual review be happening on all campuses? And if so, who conducts the review on the regional campus?
So the annual review is conducted by the Office of the Provost. It'll be done on all campuses. And this is not to be confused with the 5-year Board of Governors review, which has a different process. This is basically just an annual check on how things are trending. And what ways we can be helpful and supportive to each program if necessary.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Provost. Is there any new business? See? Darko?
Yes, Diana. This new business, can you hear me?
Yes.
This new business is at the Faculty Senate Curriculum Committee level, but it will come to the Faculty Senate level probably by the next meeting. So I wanted to put it on the Faculty Senator's horizon. And the Faculty Senate Curriculum Committee has voted to create an ad hoc